Krystal, what are you taking a look at?
Well, so just over a month ago, Democrats appeared absolutely, completely doomed for the midterms, and it was not hard to see why. The party in the White House normally loses seats in the midterms. Some 80% of voters say the country's on the wrong track, and the president's approval rating has sunk to historic lows. But now, to my great surprise, the Walking Dead Dems are showing a few signs of life. So here is some of the latest evidence. Morning Consult has independents swinging from Republicans to Democrats. As recently as May, Dems were losing Indies by 3 points. Now they are winning this key group by 8 points. In fact, 4 recent polls by GOP pollsters have found Democrats claiming a lead on the so-called generic ballot by a margin of 3, 4, 5, and 6 points. Over with Nate Silver at 538. He is also out with new analyses, noting that Dems moderately improved their chances at holding the Senate, and they also have improved their positioning on that generic congressional ballot. His Senate model has shifted to give Dems a narrow edge in the odds with a 56% chance of holding on to the upper chamber, and his model on the congressional ballot has also moved to a tie when previously Dems were trailing by 2 to 3 points. That was just earlier this summer. Now, it is worth noting that Democrats would actually need to win on that metric, the generic congressional ballot, by several points in order to overcome the GOP advantage in gerrymandering for them to be able to hold the House. Listen, not hard to build a narrative about why Democrats might be gaining a little bit of momentum right now. Horrific mass shootings in Buffalo and Uvalde focused attention on gun violence. January 6 hearings have actually proved more effective than I expected at reminding Americans just how chaotic, stressful, and disturbing Republican reign ultimately was. And even more significantly, the Supreme Court's decision overturning Roe v. Wade has put the craziest views of the Republican Party on full display. Now, Democrats have belatedly moved to highlight for voters just how extreme GOP party electeds are on key social cultural issues with votes on gay marriage and also on access to contraception. Republicans have also, all on their own, advanced laws that would ban nearly all abortions and block interstate travel, which are, of course, wildly out of step with public opinion. Now, there's a chance that this Dem momentum could even pick up a little more speed now that the party shockingly decided to actually dabble in a little bit of legislating. They got the CHIPS Act through, the Biden administration's finally decided to act more aggressively on gas prices. They've got this deal with Manchin on climate, although that is still a long way from actual passage. And House Dems are at least pretending to get more serious about banning members, their spouses, and their top aides from owning or trading stock. Overall, no doubt about it, your bet should still be on the Republicans because Dems would need to overcome weighty historical and political trends in order to pull off a win in either the House or in the Senate. 58% of Americans in a recent poll said that we are in a recession right now. Inflation continues to bite. Voters name the economy as their top issue, and they say by a sizable margin that they trust Republicans more on that issue. That set of facts should be thoroughly damning for the party in power. President Biden is also clearly a giant albatross around the party's neck. He is massively underwater in every swing state and in every key Senate battleground. In Georgia, his approval rating is minus 13. In Pennsylvania, he's underwater by 19 points. In Arizona, he's minus 20. That is a gigantic mountain for Democratic candidates in those states to try to overcome. Is Mark Kelly really going to be able to outperform Biden by 20 points in Arizona? Is John Fetterman and his epic trolling enough to overcome a 19-point disadvantage in the state of Pennsylvania? History would say this presidential approval drag is way too much to overcome, especially in an era when partisan views are hard and candidate performance as a factor is pretty low. But Republicans, they seem determined to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. With a huge assist from Trump, they have lined up behind some truly astonishingly dreadful candidates. Sagar is breaking down today the Pennsylvania race, where Dr. Oz is spending more time in Palm Beach and Europe than in Pennsylvania. Over in Georgia, Herschel Walker is being trashed by his own aides as a pathological liar who is totally unable to articulate a coherent policy position and even accurately relate basic details of his bio. Even in Ohio, J.D. Vance is proving a remarkably poor candidate with low fundraising numbers and high negatives who prioritized a trip to a conservative conference in Israel over persuading voters on the ground in his own state. Now, all 3 candidates won their nominations because of Trump's backing. Ohio's a red state now, so Vance would have to do a lot more than run an apathetic and disconnected campaign in order to lose. But his fundraising struggles are actually echoed throughout the party. Typically, fundraising totals ramp up as you get closer and closer to Election Day. But Republicans, they're seeing a collapse in their grassroots fundraising. According to analysis of contributions via the major Republican donation platform WinRed, GOP donations have actually dropped more than 12% in the second quarter versus the first quarter. Over the same period, online contributions to Democrats jumped 21%. New York Times points out that a single embattled Democratic incumbent, Raphael Warnock, he raised more online than GOP candidates in Georgia, Wisconsin, Florida, Nevada, Ohio, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania combined. Now, even though big GOP donors are pouring money in to fill that gap, this might be one of the clearest signs of an increasing GOP malaise and Democratic resurgence. Republicans had enjoyed a significant enthusiasm gap. These numbers are one possible indicator that Roe has lit a bit of a fire under the Democratic base. Now, tomorrow brings a slew of new tests and indicators as to what the fall may actually hold. Arizona, Kansas, Michigan, Missouri, and Washington voters all head to the polls in primaries to pick their candidates for the fall. Will Trump-backed Blake Masters prevail in Arizona? Not only does he want a federal abortion ban, but his website, it actually says he will only support judges who support overturning the Supreme Court decision that guarantees access to contraception. Will Eric Greitens win the GOP nomination in Missouri after being accused of domestic violence, handing Dems an outside chance in a deep red state? Perhaps the most closely watched Tuesday result is actually a Kansas ballot measure. Kansans are set to decide whether they want to retain the right to abortion that is currently in their state's constitution. The measure could be an indicator of just how much Roe has changed the game, just how far outside of the mainstream Republicans have shifted, even in a state like Kansas, or it could be an indicator of nothing really at all, given the unique dynamics of that ballot initiative. Just like the actual election overall, the picture is very murky. But for Dems at this point, murky is a hell of a lot better than the clear destruction that they faced just weeks ago. I think there has been a moderate improvement. Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.